Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rock Squad podcast, your destination for the latest in rock music news, reviews, and discussion. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Nick Chino, joined by my co-host and bandmate. It's Dave Marini. What's up, Dave?
How's it going, Nick? How's it going, everyone? Before we get going here, make sure you drop to the bottom of the page, you hit subscribe, you hit the bell so you get the notifications when we have new videos. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. Be sure to check us out on Twitter. Rock Squad podcast is live right now. Nick, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Hanging out here on a Wednesday night in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And let's just give the folks a little rundown of how we do the show. We'll be doing some tracks of the week a little bit later on in the podcast. We'll give you some recommendations on our favorite tracks in the world of rock music news. We'll get to tonight's headliner topic, which is all about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 2021 inductees. Foo Fighters are among the inductees this year, so we'll be talking about that. We'll also be doing our opening act topics. We'll be talking about Oasis announcing a Knebworth documentary. Biffy Clyro finished their new record, and Pearl Jam launched a new digital hub where you can access so many of their shows. But first, let's get to this week's sound check. Dave, big release from last week. We did a rock album review on the channel for Van Weezer, the new record from Weezer, which is doing pretty well. It's a bestseller online, as far as I can see on Amazon. It was already a bestseller. Actually, they might be making the top spot of the charts in the UK with the new album Van Weezer. So it's been very popular with this new release. In the rock album review, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I'm really digging it. It is a great new release from the Wheeze.
It's amazing. It's an amazing pop record, man. It's definitely what Weezer fans want, and what, it's catering to everyone that's into that band for sure. And very enjoyable, fun, kind of hard rock, like kind of 80s throwback vibe on some stuff. And there's like the Crazy Train. There's like the Crazy Train song.
Yeah,
that's like they sample Crazy Train through the beginning, and then like there's fun like stuff that Weezer does. Like it's very Weezer-esque. And it's a great record front to back. Lots of catchy songs. Like there's only one or two that I wasn't like really into. Like, I listened to it on Saturday afternoon. I put the headphones on, and it was a beautiful sunny day. It was great. It was awesome. I really liked it.
Yeah, for sure. Especially in comparison to OK Human, which came out earlier this year, which was this orchestral Abbey Road pop record. They went back to doing the big riffs and the nerd rock. And I think there might have been something about the marketing on this record that really appealed to a mass audience, because I think that Weezer effectively communicated that this was a vintage Weezer record with a little bit more of a hard rock twist. So, and the title itself says that as well. It's Van Weezer. You very much expect Weezer with a touch of Van Halen, which is precisely what we got on this record. And actually, it was funny. I went out for a drive on Friday night. I listened to the record while I was driving around, and then I came home, and Weezer was doing a live stream on YouTube with iHeartRadio. So I turned on the TV, and I'm like, hey, there you go. They're doing a show. Sat down on the couch, grabbed a Coca-Cola, and then I watched Weezer perform. It was great. And this new record is fantastic. We're both longtime Weezer fans, and I think it's just incredible that all these years later that we're still listening to a new Weezer record that excites us. And as you're saying, you're listening to it in the sunshine. It makes us happy. So I really do love this record. Love Weezer.
Yeah, man. We're longtime fans of the band, and we love when they put out new stuff. And I was listening to the Green album earlier today too, and it's the way it played out with that band at the beginning, like with the space between the Blue album and Pinkerton, and then between Pinkerton and the Green album. I think that did something for people that like that band. It was like the threat, like when Matt Sharp left, and it was like, well, will they go on? What was, and like that weight, and like loving the Blue album so much, and then being like, oh, Pinkerton, and then Pinkerton not being as successful, and that like lingering, like, well, is that it? Like, is that what we got? And then the release of the Green album, and then ever since, just album after album after album after album. It's awesome. I'm totally stoked. I thought it was a great album.
I think as songwriters ourselves, that we always really appreciate when a band really goes for it and releases a lot of music and writes a lot of songs.
Sure.
There's just so much more to dig into. And when I was doing the Rock Albums Ranked video for Weezer, ranking 15 different studio records, you realize how much material is in there and how much
Sure.
good stuff is in there as well,
Sure.
beyond what we've heard on, the first few records. So yeah, Van Weezer is definitely in the plus column for me, as I said in the review. So you can check out the Rock Album review for Van Weezer right now on the channel, and the Rock Albums Ranked video for Weezer is up there as well. So let's get into the opening act topics of this week's show. The first one being Pearl Jam, another one of our favorite bands, have made 186 live shows available on a new digital hub. It's called Deep. This comes from Loudwire. It's called Deep. It includes bootlegs from different tours that the band have done throughout the 2000s. This is not new for Pearl Jam. They already did the bootleg series where they were releasing different shows on CD for many years. But it's cool because if you go on this online archive, I was actually fiddling around with it a little bit before we recorded the podcast here. You can create your own Pearl Jam show set list. You can link it up with your Spotify account or your Apple Music account.
Cool.
You can go through the different shows. You can add songs to this playlist and then create your own custom Pearl Jam playlist. So I was putting together my own custom playlist with a bunch of my favorite songs. So I was thinking, some stuff from Versus, Vitalogy, No Code Yield. That's kind of my favorite Pearl Jam era. But what do you think of this, Dave? This is pretty cool if you're a fan of Pearl Jam and their live shows, which have always been fantastic.
Oh yeah, man, this is great. Pearl Jam has been doing this forever. Like they've always been on like the cutting edge of making sure that fans can get bootlegs and stuff. Like I remember a couple, like probably like 10 years ago, right when flash drives were coming out, like you could at the merch stand pay $25 and they take your money and you get a ticket. And at the end of the show, you go back to the merch stand and they give you a flash drive with the show you just watched.
Yeah.
On the flash drive. Like that's, you know what I mean?
Which
They're
is
ahead of their
revolutionary
time.
at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm talking like 15 years ago. So like the fact that they're doing shit like this now, like, let's be honest, like eventually the way everything's going to be with apps and it, you're just going to get the Pearl Jam app and you're going to have the Pearl Jam channel that casts to your TV. And, that's how things are going to end up. And they're definitely on the cutting edge of all that all the time. And they treat their fans right. They go above and beyond, whether it's like custom merchandise in each city or custom posters for each city. Like they always have so many things. It's easy to be a fan of that band, I feel.
Yeah, for sure. And Radiohead did something similar recently. They have an online hub too. I think it's called The Library or something similar to that, where they have different live shows and different things that you can go on there and access. And then we're talking about Weezer. Rivers did something recently where he had his website, riverscuomo.com. I think he did it for a project that he was doing for some sort of class where he released different compilations of their demos, of his demos in different formats for, $10 a pop. You get, however many demos, and they're all in different stages of development and that kind of thing. So I think it's cool that these bands are allowing fans to dig a little bit deeper into their archives, especially when it's a band like Pearl Jam or Radiohead or Weezer, where they have that massive hub of content to make it available for fans. In this case with Pearl Jam, making it available for free is really, really cool. I think it's super enjoyable to be able to fiddle around with a band's library like that.
Yeah, and they've been doing packages too for years and years where they allow fans to buy certain tours or certain sections of touring from year to year, like
right.
2005 to 2010, the ultimate edition, and it's a vinyl and a bunch of CDs and a bunch of singles. And,
Mars Volta's doing something like that coming out.
Yeah, Mars Volta's releasing the demo versions of the songs that appeared on the record. So it's pretty much like different takes of what we all know because they're earlier versions of. I think that's what it is. I haven't deep dived yet, but it looks awesome. I love the Mars Volta too. So especially the first record.
If you had to pick a couple of Pearl Jam songs that you would put in your ultimate set list, what would they be off the top of your head? For me, maybe, Glorified G, Daughter, maybe Do the Evolution. I think that would go in there somewhere. And they vary up their set lists all the time. So there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah, I love Do the Evolution. That's a good one. I love lots of stuff from 10 too, like,
Yeah, go back to
a
the
lot,
OG.
Alive, and all those songs are, oh, they're awesome, man. Pearl
Yeah.
Jam's a great band. I've seen them a bunch of times, and they, great live show. And Eddie's always passing around glasses of wine, and like
Yeah.
I've seen them before. I know, like, they were Madison Square Garden
I
show.
had that show on DVD. I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I was actually lucky enough when we saw them one year in Chicago, where Ben Harper was playing at the same festival,
Right.
and so we got our own Ben Harper, Eddie Vedder moment. But yeah, it's awesome. Like, I just dig the band, man. They write
Yeah.
great rock songs. You know, awesome.
Classic. Of course. All right. Well, yeah, you can definitely go on there. Go to check it out on the Pearl Jam website. If you're a member of the 10 Club or not, you should check out the deep online archive. Getting into our next topic on the opening acts, Oasis. May they rest in peace. Not exactly an existing live band right now, but the Gallagher brothers have become producers on a new documentary that's going to document their famous Knebworth show that they did in England in 1996. They've compiled all this footage that they had when they originally shot it back when the show happened. This was pretty much peak Oasis when this happened in 1996, and they said this new documentary is not going to feature any interviews. It's not going to feature any talking heads or anything like that. That they're going to use the footage of what happened on that day of the band and of the fans to kind of document how this whole thing went. And it's no secret to anybody that Oasis is my favorite band of all time. They are the reason that I play music and the reason why I do anything in life. So I'm very much looking forward to this new documentary. And as I said, this was peak Oasis. If you take a look at any pictures or the footage of their Knebworth show in 1996, this is just after Morning Glory came out in 95, when they were, on the cusp of even bigger things. I don't think it really got any bigger than that. But I still maintain that Oasis is one of the best bands of all time. I think a lot of people doubt that, especially here in North America. There are a lot of Oasis fans, but I don't think anybody really believes just how big Oasis was, especially in England in the 90s. So I'm hoping this goes a little bit further to prove just how big Oasis is, and rightfully so, because they are still one of the best bands of the 90s, if not one of the best bands of all time. They have the singles and the hits to prove it. And the amount of people that showed up at Knebworth in 1996 also proves it as well. So you can't knock the Gallagher brothers. That's how I look at it. I know you're not as big of a fan as I am, but still.
Oh, dude, I love Oasis. I think Oasis is awesome. I've seen them a bunch of times. Seen Noel Gallagher
Yep.
a bunch of times. Like, yeah, I agree 100%. They're one of the best modern rock bands of the last 30 years for sure. Like,
Yep.
they're definitely the top. For me, they're probably top 10. Like, they're in the big top 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, this documentary or concert video looks awesome. It looks amazing. Like, I've seen some of the footage and stuff, and it looks amazing. And like, I don't think people understand how big that band was at that time. Like,
right.
This was a time when records were still selling, and bands were gods, and it's crazy, man. Like, you see some of the footage of that stuff, it's like, it's awe-inspiring. They're all at the height of their careers, and they've had this great run going where they've put out this amazing record, and everyone all across the world has just been like, oh yeah, they're the next big rock band.
Yeah.
And there's there's all the elements that need to be there to have that rock and roll story, like with the brothers, and like the rivalry and the songwriting, and it's a perfect snapshot of rock and roll from that time, like mid 90s. This is what you get, and this is how people felt. Like, that's the other thing too, when you watch this show, like, you see how people were at shows. Like, you see the energy and like the connection, and it's amazing. I can't wait to see it. Like, the footage looks amazing, so I can't wait to check it all out and hear all those hits again.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't get to see Oasis until the year 2000. Once a lot of the original lineup had left and they played at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. So wasn't quite as big as Knebworth in 1996, but 96 was the year for me that I became an Oasis fan, or close to it, because it was in, I think, May of 1996. let's go back. It's an anniversary. May of 96 is when I picked up Morning Glory on CD at a Tower Records in Toronto, and completely changed my life. When you think back about the music that influenced you, and there's always a band or an artist where that was kind of just that catalyst, if you're a musician, that really or not even a musician, but a music fan, that really turn that on for you, because we're doing a podcast here about rock music. So obviously for the two of us, aside from just being musicians, that we love rock music to our core. That is who we are, who's what we do. It makes up our DNA. And there was, I'm sure for you, when you first started playing music and getting into being a music fan, there was that switch that went on in your head. You knew that music was going to be your thing, and it was going to be such a big part of your life. And that's what happened for me. So even though I wasn't at Knebworth in 96, I was a 12-year-old kid, 13-year-old kid in Hamilton. I was still vibing off of that. And it was still such a huge moment for me. So anytime they go back to that period, I get the huge nostalgia vibes.
Oh, me too. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
All right, let's get to our next opening act topics, which is about a band that I still maintain, I'm sure you agree as well, Dave, that they are the best rock band on the planet, bar none. We're talking about the Biff, Mon the Biff, Biffy Clyro. Mon the Biff, Biffy Clyro.
On the Biff.
We're on the red carpet at the Brit Awards last night. Dave, we're still in the clutch of COVID here in Canada, but over in the UK, they're having the Brit Awards like nothing's happened.
But Simon showed up like he was still in quarantine.
Yeah, he was wearing pajamas. He always has a great fashion sense. The Biffy Clyro were on the red carpet at the Brit Awards last night, and they gave confirmation that they have completed their new record, which is a follow-up to A Celebration of Endings. We actually spoke about this a couple episodes back. But they said that this new record is not going to be a companion to A Celebration of Endings. Like they initially said, because of quarantine, because of COVID, they actually wrote a bunch of new songs and turned this thing into their next official studio record. They say it's finished, but it's not coming out until October, which I say is complete BS, because why are you making us wait until October? Like, just put this thing out now. Because I can't wait for more Biffy. I know we had 2 records in the last 2 years, but that's not enough for me. I need more Biffy, and I need it now.
Yeah, man. That's super exciting news. I love Biffy just like you love Biffy. I don't know why they're gonna wait. It's probably because they didn't really do like a full cycle with the last record.
Yeah,
because
they didn't get to tour or anything.
Yeah, so it's kind of like right now you're in a weird spot, like there's like if they move forward right now, they've lost a lot of money on the last record. Do you know what I mean? Like, right. It's like a weird, like, you gotta let it play out. But I think it's a tough call anyways. But yeah, like you're right. Like, maybe, but you'll probably get a single before the album comes out. So
yeah,
like
summertime, July,
like late July, maybe a single comes out. So it's not all like, it'll come like that. I'm not going to be too worried about the push through. And the fact that we have a new record at all is fantastic. Like, like if you think back before like 2 records ago, there was talk that there wouldn't be any more records at all, right? So it's great that, just keep it coming. If it's coming, we'll take it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, they were nominated for Best British Group at the Brit Awards, which they then lost to a pop group called Little Mix, who I'm not overly familiar with. But it doesn't matter who they were up against. They were robbed for the Best British Group. Not only, like we said, they're not just the best British group. They are the best, in my opinion, the best modern rock band working today. Their music is, I don't know, it hits me in all the right ways, the way they present their music, the way they play their music, the epic nature that is Biffy Clyro. It just makes me so excited. And the minute that they said that they were done this new record, I tossed on A Celebration of Endings today, just started rocking out. Because that tends to happen to me. Whenever a band announces a new record, or they have a new record coming out, it always prompts me to go back and listen to their stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because I go through phases with bands where I listen to their records for a long time and then maybe not listen to them for a while. I rocked A Celebration of Endings for a good couple of months before it went by the wayside in my listening cycle. But it's coming back in a big way. I can't wait for this. Biffy Clyro all the way, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm super excited, man. Like, and I feel they're one of those bands that keeps getting better and better and better too. So like, I really got into them like 4 or 5 records ago, and it just seems that like I'm they keep picking up speed. The snowball keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And like I've said it before on this show too, like it's a shame that North America hasn't embraced them the same way as Europe, because I think like a lot of rock fans in North America are missing out on like one of the premier big stadium rock acts.
It's blockbuster music. That's what I
call
it.
Of the 2000, yeah, man, blockbuster music. And it's a shame that the North America hasn't grasped onto that yet. But hopefully, when festivals come back, hopefully, but like they're so deep into their fan existence now. It's tough to see that happening, that like that big explosion in North America. But I definitely think it should, man. I think they get better and better. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were 1 or 2 songs on the new record that could change the world. So we'll wait and see. I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, we'll see. And I'm always spreading the gospel of Biffy Clyro. So whenever anybody asks me if what's the band you would recommend, what's the band that you're listening to, they're always the first one that comes out of my mouth when I'm recommending a band, because they can deliver. And I want to make everybody as big of a Biffy Clyro fan as we are. So for sure. All right, those are our opening act topics of the week. Let's get to this week's headliner for the Rock Squad podcast, and it's a big one. We've been waiting for this one. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 2021 class inductees announced for this year. We got, all right, Dave, let's run it down. The inductees for 2021: Foo Fighters, very cool. Jay-Z, very deserved. The Go-Go's, Tina Turner, of course. Tina Turner, Carole King, not exactly rock and roll, but still well deserved. And
she's got to be in there, man.
Todd Rundgren too. Todd Rundgren as well, producer and songwriter. He is on the list as well. And then Randy Rhoads, the late great Randy Rhoads, and the late great Billy Preston will be honored with the Musical Excellence Awards. Are you happy with this year's inductees? Because it doesn't matter. It's the same story every year, because it doesn't matter who the inductees are, because people are just going to complain. Every time you induct anybody into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's as much about who's getting inducted as much as who's not getting inducted. Is always seems to be the conversation. I remember I was looking online today on Twitter and Facebook and just seeing people say, how can you put the Foo Fighters in there? Iron Maiden got snubbed. How can you put these people in there before these people? And a couple of weeks ago here on the podcast, we were talking about how, they should just go by seniority, because the list is so backed up now that just start, from the earliest band and work your way through. Are you happy with this year's inductees? I think, as much as I don't think the Foo Fighters should be in there just yet, I am happy for them. They are one of my favorite bands of all time.
I think the Foo Fighters, that's one of those things, man. Like any project that Dave Grohl has right now is going to get into the eventually going to get. I
think that might have something to do with it, is the fact that they're so present in pop culture right now with all the different things that they've been doing with Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, man. I think I don't think they people might think like, wow, it's just in so quickly, but they've been a working band for 25 years. It's been a long time of being in a band. Most, like, the Beatles were only a band for 7 or 8 years. So like, you take that, it's like,
crazy.
You double up the lifetime of like a band, and they put out quality things. They've never really floated away. They've always been relevant in modern rock, which is something, it's like the Stones in classic rock, or AC/DC. Like, it's like these bands have just figured out their spot in that scheme, and people are pissed about Rage. People were like, Rage Against the Machine. And I'm going to say right now, this is breaking news, that I don't think Rage Against the Machine should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's a hot take. Why do you think that?
Well, I love Rage Against the Machine. I think, they're one of the greatest bands of all time. Now, the reason why I don't think they should be in quite yet is the longevity of the band has been compromised. Yeah, they have a few good, really good, great records, classic records.
Yeah.
But I feel that the reason why they've been left out, and I kind of agree with it, is that they kind of just stopped. You know, I feel like maybe that's the effect, like that's the factor where people were expecting more from them in their career. And
Right.
because they didn't do that, and they didn't take that path, and they decided to do other things, that is affecting their thing. And I kind of agree with it. I feel like, not that, first of all, I don't really believe that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame holds any kind of, like it. If you're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I'm sure you're very honored to be in it. But in the world of rock, it
Yeah.
really doesn't much.
No, it doesn't.
Like it's all bullshit. But I feel like, bands to me that have that longevity, like an Iron Maiden. Now, Iron Maiden, I think 100% should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of
Yeah,
Fame.
they should.
That being said, it's not called the Longevity Hall of Fame. It's called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So
Yeah.
maybe I'm flip-floppy. If Rage got in, I wouldn't be angry. I get it. They're influential. They're a super influential band on me. But I feel like maybe the reason they didn't get it is because they haven't had that consistency through their career. And if that's the case, when you're looking at bands like the Foo Fighters, and you're looking at bands like Iron Maiden, who I think it's crazy that they're not, or even Tina Turner, or whoever else is on that list, they've all just been through the decades pumping out music.
Yeah.
And I feel that that's probably why, and I kind of get it. Now, if Rage is back together and they put out another record, maybe another 2 records,
Yeah.
that no
And we'll
doubt,
see. Yeah.
no doubt in my mind. But you can't be the hot show for a couple years and then go completely silent, refuse to make music, and be expected to be welcomed into the rock. That's just how I feel. That's how I see it playing out, where they're like, well, But that being said, it'd be a shame if they never got in, because those albums are so influential, and they're amazing records. They're some of my favorite. But definitely Iron Maiden, though. Iron Maiden should have
been there. Yeah, that was a snub. Well, if I was actually looking online and looking at just a little bit of a list of bands that are still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And some of these are actually pretty surprising. Jethro Tull, The Smiths, MC5, Judas Priest is another big metal band that's been snubbed by the Rock Hall.
MC5, really? MC5's not in there.
Pixies, the Monkees. We were talking about the Monkees last week. The Monkees are not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Crazy.
Soundgarden's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Crazy.
That we can kind of pass that one, because again, they're a 90s band. A lot of 90s bands aren't in there yet. Foo Fighters have been around less than Soundgarden.
Kind of the same situation as the Rage, right? Like, they were a band. They were a band, and they had their days, and they stopped. And but unlike Rage, they put it back together, and they kept it going, right? So like, that's one of those things. Like, that's what I'm saying.
But what about like Bad Company, Supertramp, the Guess Who? That's what I'm saying. Like, does the more, like I was saying, because every year, no matter who they induct, there is still the conversation about who they haven't inducted yet and how backed up they are. Does their continued snubs at all these overdue artists delegitimize the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Not that we're putting too much stock in it. We know it's all just pomp and circumstance. It's not something that really matters when you think about true rock and roll. But if this is something that they're going to continue to do every year and continue to want people to think is important, should they just go back and say, listen, we're going to induct all these bands, and then we're going to start fresh and go from a certain point? Because I think that they just continue to hurt their legitimacy every time they overlook a lot of these classic artists.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, right? Like, they do stupid shit like that all the time. They'll put in Lenny Kravitz at holding his American Woman guitar, but the Guess Who aren't in the Rock and Roll. Like, like, come on. Like, it's just
doesn't make any sense, man.
It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I don't put a lot of stock in it. But it's all bullshit. It's all politics and money, and like it's starting to be more and more like Super Bowl halftime show, and less about like who actually needs to be in it. And let's be honest, they could easily do an extra 4 or 5 every year.
Yeah,
and kind of cut down. 5? Like, do we really need to vote if the fucking Guess Who need to be in the rocker. Like, give me a fucking break. Like, Jay-Z's it. But the Guess Who? Come on. Iron Maiden, Guess Who? All these people deserve to be in it. It's just like how they never put Rush in forever.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me? Neil Young, another one that they didn't put in for, like, I think, you know what? I think
when Rush did get inducted, Alex Lifeson did the whole blah 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 speech, and he knew that it was a bunch of hoo-ha and didn't really respect it. So if the musicians themselves that are being inducted don't care, then perhaps we shouldn't either. But it's a very much a big topic in the world of rock music. I am happy for Foo Fighters because they're one of our favorite bands, and Dave Grohl, he's already been inducted with Nirvana, but the other guys deserve it too. I do think that they could have waited a couple of years. I do think that it could be tied to a little bit of how the Foo Fighters are very much culturally relevant in the pop culture and music worlds right now. They deserve it. I just think that they should go back and induct some of those older artists before they bring in Dave Grohl and the boys.
And you know what? They would be the first ones to tell you the exact same.
Exactly. I'm sure Dave Grohl would say, let's induct Iron Maiden before Foo Fighters. I think that would be right. I don't think Dave is thinking that he should be in there before those guys.
Yeah. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, let's be honest here. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll be looking forward, I guess, to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I'm sure there'll be some fun speeches and performances, and I guess with the COVID situation getting better in the States, that they'll be able to do some sort of live event. So that'll be really cool. So that is our headliner topic of this week, and those are all of our topics for the Rock Squad podcast this week. Going to wrap things up, but before we do, let's get to our tracks of the week, which are our rock recommendations of the songs that we're listening to right now. If you want to check out the Rock Squad tracks of the week playlist, it's up on Spotify right now. All the songs are compiled there in one handy playlist, so you can rock accordingly. I'll do my tracks first, Dave. One of them being from the new Weezer record. This is probably my favorite song on Van Weezer, which is All the Good Ones. Is my favorite song on Van Weezer, as well as Sheila Can Do It, which is a song that Rivers wrote back in the 90s that they put on this record. So those are my tracks of the week. Dave, what do you got?
I got two. Like I said earlier, me too. I was listening to Weezer because I was in a Van Weezer mood. I was listening to the Green album outside. So, outdoor, hang out, barbecues on, throw on Green album, listen to Island in the Sun.
Yeah.
Good mood, good vibes. And also, my second one, I don't know, I've been listening to so much, but today I was listening to a record I hadn't listened to in a while, and it's a great Canadian band. I was listening to the song Try Honesty by Billy Talent.
Nice.
So those are my two picks for this.
Yeah, that first Billy Talent record is still deadly. When Try Honesty came out, that song really, really exploded on the radio. And I remember that was the song that introduced Billy Talent to the world at large. And it's still a killer record, killer track.
Yeah, man, they're a great band, and they're an overlooked band, I think, too. Like, even though they've had lots of success, I think like they don't get the props they deserve, because we talk about it all the time about who's carrying the torch for live music in our country, and who's and they're the generation after the Our Lady Peace and the I Mother Earth and the Tea Parties and the Big Rex and stuff. So they're at the forefront for us, and they don't get the recognition as they should, because there's a lot of bands that are influenced by that band, and a lot of those guys are deep into our Canadian music scene, and they're one of the only bands at that level that do international things, do huge international festivals, and so for hard rock, edgy, punky, grindy rock, mainstream rock, they're definitely one of the leaders in our country. So yeah, I dig it, and that first record rocks.
Yeah, I saw them actually. They opened up. This was in 2002. They opened up for I Mother Earth when I was at Western, when I was in university. They opened up for I Mother Earth at a local bar called The Drink, and I had never heard of Billy Talent yet. This was before the record came out, because that first record came out in 2003. This was the fall of 2002, and they came on and they just killed it. And they played a lot of those songs. And I still have, it's like, I think maybe a 3 or 4 song EP, free EP that they gave out to to the people at the concert. And it's got a bunch of those songs from the first record on it. And so Yeah, it was super cool. So that is it for our episode of the Rock Squad podcast this week. We want to thank a lot for everybody for watching this episode of the show. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. We're here on YouTube as a YouTube show. We're available wherever you get your podcasts online, whether that be Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Anchor. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Rock Squad Pod. We're in a band. We're called Fools Union. So if you want to check out our music, we're at foolsunion.com. We're available on all the streaming services. And where can the folks follow you, Dave?
You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram, Red Coast Records. What a fantastic show, Nick. It's always a pleasure to see your beautiful face in these trying times.
Yeah, for sure, man. You can follow me at The Walking Nick. We'll see you again for another episode of the Rock Squad podcast. Thanks a lot for watching. Rock on, Dave.
Rock on, Nick.